Okay, good evening, dear colleagues. Brexit, 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 Brexit. I'm absolutely sick and tired of hearing the word Brexit, and I assume that you are too. But that said, none of us can ignore this monumental period in history. I was living in Manchester in 2016, and I have to say that I was quite surprised at how dismissive, not everybody obviously, but a significant number of people were about the Irish border question when the referendum was approaching. A big argument on the Brexiteer side was that the UK needed to regain control of its borders. But I believe that there was not enough attention paid to the Irish border. You have to realise that the Irish border and the border between the north of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland is not just a regular border between two countries. And the political deadlock that is currently ongoing is indicative of this fact. The fact that there is no hard border on the island of Ireland is a symbol of compromise. It is a symbol of identity. It is the symbol of the end of a troubled history. Hardening that border could put into jeopardy one of Europe's greatest success stories. The history between the island of Ireland and the island of Great Britain is extremely complex, and I do not fully understand it. Indeed, I would think you'd be hard pushed to find anybody who truly understands the complexity of our history. But just for the sake of this speech, I'm going to focus on one specific period. The British ruled over the Irish for quite some time, quite a few centuries to be specific. And in 1920, after various rebellions on the side of the indigenous Irish, a border was put in place on the island of Ireland. Now, not everybody was happy with the fact that Ireland was leaving the United Kingdom. There were quite a few people in the north of Ireland especially who wanted to remain part of the UK. Outside of the north of Ireland, the population comprises mainly Republicans who were mainly pro-independence, who were predominantly Catholic, and were known as, and indeed still are known as, nationalists. The other side were mainly Protestants who remained loyal to Britain and wanted to remain part of the United Kingdom. And they were known, and indeed still are known, as Unionists. The 499-kilometre border that exists between Ireland and Northern Ireland began, when it was erected, was very porous. But tensions rose between the United Kingdom and Ireland, and this led to the establishment of custom checks. A trade war ensued between the United Kingdom and Ireland and saw tariffs being placed on agricultural goods, steel, and coal. At the end of the 1960s, violence unfortunately erupted. The nationalists in Northern Ireland formed a minority at that time. It has changed since. And they were ruled over, many claimed, by the Unionists. The treatment the nationalists received, many claimed, was unequal, and this is what caused the conflict. Extremists emerged in the form of the IRA, which is the acronym for the Irish Republican Army. This group believed that Ireland should be independent and a united country, a united Ireland, a united island. And they believed that the British were oppressing the nationalist minority in the north. Unionist paramilitaries formed in response to the formation of the IRA, and they began attacking back when the IRA began attacking the British presence in the north. Both groups bombed buildings, homes, cars, and engaged in street fighting. The UK deployed troops to the north of Ireland to try and quench the violence. But the IRA attacked these troops repeatedly. The presence of the border was especially a bone of contention, and the IRA focused their attacks on this area. The border was a very staunch symbol of British occupation in Ireland. Because of this, the UK stationed many troops along the border, and they tightly controlled vehicles that entered the north of Ireland from the Republic. The violence lasted for more than 30 years. More than 3,600 people were killed. This period became known as the Troubles, and it only ended in 1998. I personally remember the Troubles very vividly. I remember having to pray for children who died, who were my own age when I was a child, on both sides of the fight. I remember my father's London accent not exactly being warmly welcomed in the Western Irish town that I grew up in. The Good Friday Agreement of 1998 was very welcomed and was agreed upon by both sides in a referendum. The compromise saw the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, not the north of Ireland, but rather Northern Ireland, remaining in the United Kingdom. But people were eligible to receive citizenship of either country. This meant that if you felt and identified more with Ireland, you could receive an Irish passport and become an Irish citizen. Equally, if you felt more British and you wanted to be part of the UK, you could get a British passport and feel more British if you wish. Equally, you could have both if you wish, and that still continues to this day. Also, the agreement stipulated that a referendum could occur if there was enough will for it, a referendum to unite the island. The hard border was eradicated, and this was very symbolic and very significant. The UK troops left the north of Ireland, and the watchtowers came down, and many roads opened between the north and the Republic. Right now, there are roughly 270 official crossings between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Most of these are invisible, and it is the fact that they are invisible that is so symbolic. This invisibility symbolizes compromise, it symbolizes understanding, and it symbolizes the end of decades of violent conflict. In June 2016, the United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union, even though this was not the case for many of the unions within the United Kingdom. I'm sure you're aware that Scotland did not want to leave the EU. More than 60% of Scots wanted to remain in the EU. Well, the Northern Irish didn't want to leave the EU either. More than 56% of Northern Irish voted to remain in the EU. One of the main arguments for Brexit, as I said, was regaining control of borders. But, as I said, too little attention was paid to the Irish border question. That all changed with the beginning of the Brexit negotiations. The Irish border became one of the three key topics of discussion, along with citizens' rights and the financial settlement. The Irish border question still remains unresolved. Now, there are a number of options on the table. The first option I'm going to speak of sees the UK being able to reimpose a hard border on the island of Ireland. They would have to police this border, and this technically, however, goes against the Good Friday Agreement, which is supposed to allow for citizens of the North to feel close to Ireland and not to have a border between them and the Republic. The other option is to have a border in the Irish Sea, but this also violates the Good Friday Agreement because Unionists shouldn't be separated from the United Kingdom either. Both options violate the Good Friday Agreement. Let's not sugarcoat this. The third option is for the United Kingdom to remain in the customs union. But many Brexiteers are completely against this option because it would not allow for the UK to independently negotiate trade deals with other countries around the world. The UK needs to establish some sort of border, but we've no idea what is going to happen. Theresa May has said in the House of Commons that there will be no hard border on the island of Ireland. Great. She has also said that there will be no hard border in the Irish Sea. Great. She has also said that the UK, under no circumstances, is going to remain in the customs union. Fantastic. So what options do we actually have, Theresa? As I said previously, the history between the island of Ireland and the island of Great Britain has been incredibly complex. At times in our history, and indeed today, we have been the best of friends. At times in our history, we have been the worst of enemies. I really hope that going forward, that the former will remain the norm.